Hey guys, Mustang Doctor, and boy do I have a treat for you guys tonight. We have successfully cracked the S650 Mustang GT and Mustang Dark Horse tune files. I'm going to walk you guys through the differences between the two. We're going to step through the difference between the 2022 GT and a 2024 GT, so you guys can see the major differences that everybody's seeing out there when they're dynoing these things. A lot of guys have dyno tuned the S650 already. It's not putting out the power that the S550 put out. It's a major disappointment, but I'm going to show you guys why that is and how once tuning's available for these cars, it's not going to be a problem, because Ford essentially just detuned these cars. They took a ton of torque management and they just dropped them down significantly. So we'll take a look at that, but we'll also take a look at the difference between the 2024 Mustang GT and the Dark Horse, because essentially if you go out and buy a 2024 GT, as soon as tuning's available, you're going to be able to tune the GT to be a Dark Horse, and I'm going to show you guys why that is. All right guys, let's dive in. So diving right into the tune files itself, we're going to take a look at the 2024 Mustang GT in comparison to the 2024 Mustang Dark Horse first, and then we're going to take a look at the 2022 GT, which is the S550 platform, in comparison to the 2024 Mustang GT of the S650 platform. And I'm going to show you guys the differences there. That's what everybody's seeing online. A lot of posts online are talking about dyno tuning, or I should say dynoing the S650 platform, and how it's extremely disappointing. That's really just going to come down to torque management. We're going to talk about and step through here in a bit. I will show you guys the difference between the 2022 and 2024 GTs, but right now we're just going to jump into the 2024 GT and Dark Horse and take a look at the big differences there, because what you guys are going to find with me is the 2024 GT can be a Dark Horse once tuning's available, and I'm going to show you guys what that means. So we're going to jump right into the torque management. And as you guys can see when we're looking here, torque modeling for the GT and the Dark Horse is exactly the same. I honestly anticipated the torque tables and inverse tables would be different, but they're not. It's all in major torque management. So anything in green has been changed. When we're up here looking at this file, this is the GT file, this one's the Dark Horse, and then this is the difference between the two. So stepping through the GT, we're looking at max torque here. This is the torque table. There's 4 tables here on max torque, and you can see here this is the 2024 GT. And then as I step over to the Dark Horse, you can see the jump in torque. So they've essentially taken the same motor, dual throttle bodies, and they've dual throttle body 5.0s, and they've just dropped torque down, torque management for the GT. So as you can see right there, when tuning's available for these cars, because we cracked the code on the tunes itself, but when we go and flash one of these to the car won't run because the computers are encrypted. So once that's been solved and these can be tuned, you can essentially tune a 2024 GT to make it a 2024 Dark Horse. So it's all, as you guys can see, in torque management. And when you look at this and we look at the differences, it's 103 foot-pounds of torque at the engine in the upper load range. You can see big differences as you step through the lower ranges. Actually, I take that back. You'll see that when we get into the 2022 GT versus the 2024 GT, because there's huge torque differences right in here. It's about 200 foot-pounds of torque, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But even on the GT, the Dark Horse for 2024, a decent amount, 103 foot-pounds of torque. Even as you're getting into the lower load ranges, you're still almost 100 foot-pounds in there. So big differences there, and that hit every table. So, and they did it exactly the same. So really nothing noteworthy to mention outside of the fact that they've detuned the cars in terms of torque. So spark ignition timing was exactly the same. They didn't touch ignition timing at all. Fuel enrichment was the same, so we didn't see any differences in overall optimal performance fuel enrichment. And some of the odd changes we saw, we're going to jump over to the transmission here. These are both, mind you, 10R80 10-speed cars. We're going to show you when we look at the 2022 GT, that's a 10R80 as well. So we'll do some comparisons for the 2022 GT versus 2024 S650 GT in terms of the 10R80. They made significant differences. So we'll save that to jump in just a second. But looking here at the both S650 platforms, the big difference in transmission is in the shift scheduling, and it's not a huge difference. That's decel or downshift. Basically what they did here though is this is the GT. So over here is where you can see the changes. They actually just held out the shift points longer. So this is shift scheduling for the 10-speed. Gear 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9. You can see how they just held out the shifts a little bit longer there. So those are decent changes there, nothing major. They didn't do anything to shift pressures or timing or properties. They did make a big difference here. Find it again in the axle right there, which I found really odd. So it must have something to do with the fact that they are pushing a little bit more power out of the Dark Horse. So maybe they wanted to preserve the axle, or maybe just the axle is a weak point, and Ford had found that and then detuned it before they launched these cars. But as you guys can see, this is the GT. This is in Newton meters of torque. They detune that significantly for the Dark Horse, which really surprises me. But that's why you guys are seeing a lot of those cars on the dyno not putting out the power that you expected. So they've just really strangled these cars in terms of torque management. So that's transmission. I don't think there was anything else we wanted to show you there. And nope, that's it. So we're going to jump over now to the 2022 GT versus the 2024 S650 GT, and you guys can see the major differences there. So now I have the 2022 GT file up and the 2024 S650 GT file up. So if we're right here, we're looking at, if we're on this one, we're on the 2022 GT. If we're on this one, we're on the 2024 GT. And if we're here, we're on the difference. So starting on the 2022 GT, I wanted to show you guys the differences. There was some serious difference in ignition timing, which I was really surprised by. They really unique. They actually, surprisingly enough, because mind you, we were just talking about the fact that the S650 dyno numbers are significantly lower than what we expected. Very disappointing numbers. And I had talked about torque management being some of the issue, especially between the GT and the Dark Horse. But one of the things we expected to see more so between the 2022 to the 2024 is that it wouldn't have advanced ignition timing, and it actually kind of does. So we're looking right now on the borderline tables, which are your main spark tables. As you guys can see, they've got 27 tables over here. And this is 2022 GT. This is 2024, which they've advanced the timing a little bit. And then obviously the difference. So you can see the advancement, and each of these tables are going to be different because Ford uses that HDFX weighting strategy. So as we stepped through, though, they were all fairly similar in terms of advancement. So you can see there's advanced ignition timing anywhere between 9, 10, and 7 degrees, kind of depending on your load and RPM range, of course. But one of the things they did to counteract that is they dropped MBT timing down, which is the cap for ignition timing. So they somewhat washed it out. They didn't completely wash it out because MBT timing is usually significantly higher than regular timing. So when you look at the two, they of course dropped MBT from 2024 to 2022, where in regular timing they advanced it, but they didn't drop it enough to cut the advancement. So you're still getting advanced ignition timing here. However, if you jump over to like the lambda modifier and some of these other modifying tables, this right here, we're looking at the 2022 GT. You can see there's not a lot of ignition timing adjustment. They're actually ramping in more timing for different stoic ranges. And then here in the 2024, they're actually pulling significant timing almost throughout the entire range until you get into cruising stoic. But they're into fuel enrichment. They're pulling 3 to almost 3.5 degrees.